Hello guys and welcome to potentially the final game between FM eSports and Infused, taking the final game of this best of three potentially in the UK ESL Premiership for League of Legends, the first open qualifiers. And what an explosive first game we had. It was touch and go for both teams for most of the game. Infused racking up 4 dragons, but the FM lineup managed to swing it back with a beautiful tower pushing team. And they managed to take the game in fairly convincing fashion in the latter halves. Sigilis, I mean, I'm tired. I don't know about you, buddy, but this has been a long, awesome set of games. And it really does take it out of you to just see these guys playing at the top of their game. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Some of these games have just been edge of your seat as well. I mean, looking at, for example, the Divine game, the last of the Divine games, really just tense the entire way through. Looking at the last game we just saw, it was honestly pretty tense. It looked like Infused were going to take it, and it does wear you down, I'm not going to lie. But first pick Sejuani coming over on the side of FM this game. Very strong after the changes to tank junglers, I feel. I like this as a first pick as well. I don't think it gives away too much of your comp either. Can be used in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I mean, Sejuani is a pretty powerful jungler as well. I imagine that Neutral will be taking that into the jungle almost certainly. It is incredibly potent at the moment. She does so well with that new Cinder Coat enchantment. It is just such a powerful tool for this Sejuani to have, and I imagine Neutral will be running with that in the jungle. I haven't seen... I mean, I've seen a variety of ways you can build this Sejuani. You can go AP and be an absolute monster with the damage that you do, or you can be that fully tanked frontline. And we're seeing some interesting things coming out here. A complete switch up, it seems, of picks for FM this time around, throwing a spanner in the works for Infused to think about potentially what they're going to do here.
Yeah, and interestingly as well, Infused picking up a bot lane they haven't ran yet today. So going for the Graves Janna, obviously a very traditionally strong lane, has great trading capabilities, the potential to all-in you just because of how strong Graves' burst is. And it's relatively safe too. Graves is very tanky with a true grit. You got the Eye of the Storm shield, all sorts of disengage. I really like that pickup, especially against a Sejuani. Much safer to run something like this and avoid the ganks that way, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Annie could obviously move towards the bot lane. I would not assume that Ziviz will be running Annie in the mid lane. I would imagine that's Quant's going to be taking that in the bot lane. It works quite well for bot lane ganks with the Sejuani, that you just have that really reliable, if you can hit your Tibbers, engage onto the bot lane, which can be followed up by a very high amount of CC coming out from Sejuani. And that's a very quick lock-in here for Infused. Chunky going to be going onto his very potent Gnar. And if that's a Twitch, that'll be the first Twitch I have seen in a very long time.
Not to mention, if that's a Twitch, picking it into Narvan is a scary prospect. One which certainly I would not have the balls to do. But, something I think is interesting here out of Infused, this is literally like the definition of a meta team. Like, I think you could take the composition that they're running, plus or minus the last pick, and just sort of rewind a few weeks in LCS, and you'd see this at like every game, or banned out every game. Narvan was so strong before each of the components of that combination were nerfed a little bit. Lissandra and Corki being locked in as well for FM here. Quite liking the comp coming out of FM, to be honest. They have a lot of potential to just in-your-face, burst you down, team fight, whereas, the counter-engage coming out of Infused is actually well-equipped to deal with that.
Yeah, 100%. And I gotta say, Tundra on Scion, this is a very scary engage comp, like you said, from FM. They can kind of basically pick and choose when they want to fight, and if they manage to get the engage off, they will completely wreck through an absolute chain of CC. On the other hand, Infused, they have a similar kind of composition, but they do have a couple of disengage tools in the form of Janna. There isn't anything on the side of FM that allows them to disengage as a team easily.
Yeah, one thing that they've got going for them on FM, I think, is that their lanes are looking really strong, right? Bot lane, Corki, Annie, as far as I'm concerned, does win out against Graves Janna because Annie is so good against Janna. Janna beats out things like Leona, a lot of the supports with dashes, because Howlin' Gale is so good. But if Annie just flashes on you in Tibbers, you do not have the time to react to that normally. And if the Tibbers lands onto the Janna, she's too squishy to escape that a lot of the time. At the very least, she's going to be burning summoners. So lots of pretty cool tools coming out in the bot lane for FM. Looking towards the mid lane, Lissandra is such a ridiculously strong pick right now. Combine that with a Sejuani, the Freylord sisters going in as a team are just going to lock you up in so many prisons of ice. It's going to be a very chilly day for Infused.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is Ulfrin on that Victor again. I'm not sure he's going to have as easy time as he did the last time he played it, because there's so much more that he's going up against that has the ability to lock him down. And you've got to imagine playing against a Lissandra and a Sejuani, you're going to have to be so careful. And this time he has gone for the cleanse. I think that's a very wise decision. Didn't need it versus the Vi, because obviously you can't cleanse the Assault and Battery, but there is so much you can cleanse versus a Lissandra and a Sejuani. This is all going to be down to who gets ahead, I think, at this point, because both the team comps are very big team fighty team compositions. I do think there is a lot focused on just a big engage from FM, whereas Infused have more of a controlled AoE-based team fight. If they can get a good Gnar ultimate and have a really awesome Victor ultimate just do its work in the backline, then I do think Infused have the ability to run away with this in the team fights. But that is if the Victor gets to a point where he's doing some real serious damage. Otherwise, you can just see FM catching Infused off guard, catching people out with both Sejuani, Annie, Lissandra, and Sion, all of the ability to catch someone out of position, and then just wrecking team fights from there. We've seen how powerful Lissandra can be when she's in the right position. We saw it yesterday from Divine. We're going to see FM and Zivis, a very, very potent mid laner. We saw him on that Ezreal do an absolute wrecking ball of a job last game. So I'm going to be really looking forward to seeing what he's going to be like on this Lissandra. And you were talking about the bot lane. I think in terms of who's going to have the lane control, it's probably going to be Sir Scott and Quince, because just have so much burst damage. Now, people often pick Corki into Graves because he's such a good return damage AD carry. If Graves gets up to do a buckshot, you're just immediately going to receive a phosphorus bomb and then a Gatling gun in the face. It's going to be difficult for Graves to match that. I mean, Corki's the AD carry you pick when you want to match the burst of Graves. So, you know, that's that. But Graves is obviously got that stacking magic resist in it and armor. So both, you know, he gets both of them stacking as his passive. So it allows him to do a little bit more defensive work against this Corki. So we'll just have to see how that one plays out. I think Wow will have to be on point with his disengages to make sure that he stays safe in this lane.
One cool thing about Infused comp that I want to touch on briefly is the fact that Narvin is a combo we've seen a lot. You know, it's been given its own name for a reason. It was so very popular when both those champions were at the height of their popularity and their strength. But by adding a Victor to the mix, it kind of almost becomes a wombo combo. When everyone is stunned up inside of that Cataclysm, you throw down the Chaos Storm. Chaos is going to break loose and you're going to take a ridiculous amount of damage.
Yeah, we are just getting into the Rift at this point in time, and we haven't seen too much crazy level 1. Divine were probably the most aggressive sets of level 1 goers, as we saw them go very aggressive for their wards. Haven't seen anything from these two teams, though. They've all been very, very tailored and reserved towards their level 1 play, but everyone's stacking up on the side of Infused. They're all heading out together.
Yeah, and you can see by the On My Way pings, they're looking to place a deep ward. They're trying to scout for a lane swap, I think, and Gnar is not the worst lane swap 2 versus 1 situation. He can do decently in that kind of a spot. Tundra as well on Sion can actually farm relatively well once he gets some damage on his abilities. So I don't feel like taking a 2v1 would be awful for either team, but this was nice as a response by FM. They completely denied that scout.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Tundra will go for that level 2 tactic, in the sense that he'll be wanting to hit level 2 and then go to lane immediately afterwards. I am wondering if that'll be a thing for him, or he'll just head up to that lane by himself and just grind it out as normal. A lot of solo queue Sion players like to just take a camp by themselves, hit level 2, even though it means they die because they obviously don't give any gold away, and then teleport back into lane immediately.
I think he could probably afford to do it, especially seeing as FM did a great job of interrupting the vision gaining exercise that Infused tried to put into place. They don't know for sure where he's going. They don't know if there's a lane swap coming. They don't know if he's going to be starting Wolves, Wraiths, whatever. So he's got an opportunity to do it, and I reckon it's a relatively safe one at that. Obviously, if you attempt to do the level 2 with Scion and you get invaded on, things go south very quickly because you give away a kill normally. So you have to be confident that you're not going to be collapsed on. Given where he's moving down to, certainly looks like his strategy is to do that. Top lane, we are seeing a lane swap initiated by FM.
Yep, and they are going to initiate that lane swap. It's going to leave Chunky going up against this 2v1 lane. Means he may be a little bit dismayed, not going to have the opportunity to go against Tundra. Tundra has just managed to hit that stage when he's died to the minions, is now taking them down very, very quickly. Will hit level 2, we'll just wait for his timer to time out and teleport back down to the bot lane, having hit that level 2 position. He's going to pick up a pink ward for his troubles, keep him a little bit safer in lane.
And I think, especially against a lane like the Janna Graves, if you're planning on a lane swap, going for that level 2 can do nothing but good for you. Mid lane, Ziv is hitting level 2 very early, but not able to land the Ice Shard onto Ulfrin. He has burned a lot of his mana. He does get free spells every once in a while, however, so it's not the end of the world for him.
Yeah, he gets free spells every 18 seconds or something like that. It's basically got to wait a short time. So every 18 seconds, ability doesn't cost any mana at all. So, you be sort of 3 or 4 times a minute, you'll be able to get a free spell, which means a little bit of free harass. Chunky sitting in the sidelines, which I think is quite clever. He's just soaking up experience from this side brush. He's just waiting for maybe a little bit of support from Dandy, and actually I think they've just spied out that Chunky was waiting there. They're just going to deny some experience from him at this point. He did a nice job of just soaking up what he could.
Yeah, that was good by him. Tundra, in the meanwhile, though, is actually getting some farm. Roar of the Slayer, obviously, so good at achieving that. Look, if he knocks this minion in, he's going to pick up 3 minions probably very easily. He is 8-1 at this point. And actually, if you look at the way that the bottom lane, now top lane, of FM are playing this, they are allowing themselves to be shoved in. They are completely locking Chunky out of farm, and this is something which I think is especially effective against a Gnar. He really needs items to do his job properly.
Yeah, 100%. And he's actually only got that longsword right now. He did actually start a very aggressive lane build. I'm assuming he was hoping to go up against Scion, and Chunky just doing as best he can with that boomerang blade, trying to keep himself in experience range. And Sir Scott and Quince aren't too bothered about keeping Chunky away from the creeps. They're sort of not taking too much of an aggressive position. And look at him, he's allowed to walk right into experience range, which is a pretty decent deal for him, to be honest.
I mean, he's not going to be complaining about getting experience, but he will be complaining about getting absolutely no minions. Obviously, once he hits level 6, having that Gnar ability to combo with Jarvan's Cataclysm is very good, and he doesn't need items to make that work. However, Tundra, bot lane, taking a lot of damage there, needs to be careful. He's already burned his teleport as well, so he's going to have a bit of a tough time if he is forced out of lane.
He's going to stay here as well. Looks like Jarvan is heading down that way to try and do what he can. They may even be going for this dragon very early on, knowing that, oh wow, a Toaster in a bit of an interesting position here, does get locked up, and Nutri coming through, riding that Poro, trying to make something happen. It does look like Dandy is in position to counter gank, maybe even go for the dive onto Tundra, but Roar of the Slayer doing what it can. This may even be a dive. Interesting that they may want to dive against a Sejuani. I think Dandy is thinking twice about it now.
Not to mention, Scion will have his passive available. At early levels, that does significant damage, and it's very hard to get away from. So if they dive, I'm pretty sure they're trading a kill. Not really what Infused are looking to do at this point, I think.
No, I'd say trading a kill is definitely not on the books for them. They'd be killing off Scion, but remember, when Scion dies, he does come back to life with a scary amount of AD, has a little bit of extra attack speed as well, so they're going to go for this dragon, though, and I don't think they have any clue this is happening. I think Nutri is going to get wind of it if he wards over the brush.
Oh, he's not quite able to do it. I think he knew it was going on because he saw
the dragon animation.
Yeah. Well, in any case...
this is something you always risk when you do a 2v1. You always risk these early dragons. It's not quite as detrimental as it used to be because of the gold bonus that has been taken away from the dragon, but you do lose the start on that timer.
Yeah, the timer is useful to have. You can see the animation go off, which helps quite a lot. But even still, I feel like this is a trade FM are comfortable making, just given the humongous lead that Tundra is gaining over his counterpart, Chunky. This, at the moment, is a 25 CS lead at only 6.5 minutes. That is insane.
Yeah, and they've done a really good job. And actually, they were freezing previously, but now they're going to try and be aggressive.
Oh, mid lane. Ultimates both gained at the same time. Ignite going down onto Ulfrin. Is it enough to pick up the kill? It is. Ziv is picking up the first blood in a one-on-one in the mid lane.
Really fantastic play from Ziv, as he has shown that he's a particularly good champion on Ezreal, and he's just showing that he's got that same kind of mastery with Lissandra. I really like this against Chunky. They're really denying as much as they can from him under tower. That is not happening in the bot lane with Tundra. Tundra is getting almost free roam of whatever he likes in this bot, and he's actually gone for the Barmy Cinder too, and actually Chunky being forced away from this turret. Look at how little gold Chunky is sitting on right now. He's sitting on 412. He is not going to be too happy about that. Can't even finish his phage.
Yeah, I mean, really, this has worked out beautifully for FM, I think. They don't care too much about giving away a dragon. In the early phases of the game, the 6% does practically nothing, because you're not amplifying anything. And Gnar, you know, as I said earlier, needs items, and doesn't farm anywhere near as well under tower as Tundra does in a 2 versus 1. So they're also going to get the tower way earlier, just because Tundra has done a very good job of shoving minions.
Yeah, he has, and he's got that Roar of the Slayer, which allows him to do a lot of damage to minion waves before they even touch the turret. You've got to remember that Boomerang Blade will return to you as soon as it's hit a target, which doesn't mean it doesn't get its full length that could potentially receive if it doesn't hit any targets. So he can't clear waves of that as effectively as Roar of the Slayer can, as Tundra is now himself heading up towards that top lane to go toe-to-toe with Chunky at this point. He's not got too many items on him at this. He's only got that Barmy Cinder and the cloth armor, so it's not like he's completely gallivanting ahead, but he's definitely got a serious advantage.
The good news here for Infused bot lane is that they are able to take the tower. Obviously, with the Eye of the Storm on Wawa, you are able to do a lot of damage to it. Quinsk looking like he wants to come forward on the Ulfrin, flashes forward, stun lands, Ignite goes down. Here's Sejuani as well, Glacial Prison, locking up Ulfrin. Ziviz, though, is baited into Toaster and Wawa. The ultimate comes down, Tibbers stuns him up, but Quinsk is going to fall, tries to get the kill on Wawa in return. Toaster picking up a double kill, a blue buff, and now the mid lane siege is being laid thick and heavy by Infused.
Yeah, definitely. That was unfortunately a bit of a misplay there from both Lissandra and from the Annie there. She actually missed path very, very slightly as these bot lane.
Oh, here comes Tundra trying to lock up Wawa on Toaster, but he doesn't really do any damage at this point. He is tanky. That is all he has to offer. He needs to be careful here, has to flash away, and really achieving nothing other than giving Chunky an opportunity to come back in terms of farm. Alright, meanwhile in the bot lane, Sir Scott is going to do a good job of pushing down this tower, making up for some of what has been going on in other locations on the map. He does not have a Sheen yet. Or sorry, he does have a Sheen, so he's going to be doing a lot of damage to that tower. Here comes Ulfrin, though. He is going to be an opponent that is difficult for Scott to really deal with properly. Quinsk, he does have stun charged up. They might be able to make something happen here. No, just going to show instead and start forcing their way down onto this tower. Ziviz, meanwhile, pushing in this mid lane, looking like he wants to maybe do some tower damage as well. Interesting decision, to be honest, from Infused, sending Ulfrin towards this bot lane rather than keeping him in the middle lane. They're actually utilizing, well, they were utilizing Wawa and Toaster there instead, which, you know, I can kind of understand. Ulfrin is very easily able to shove out bot lane and stop the tower from going down, but it's much harder for him to deal with the push coming out of Ziviz, if I'm honest. Just too much damage from that Shard of Ice pushing down onto the tower. It is going to fall. So actually a very nice pickup there. Mid lane, here comes Ziviz. Nutri lands the Glacial Prison. Ulfrin trying to get away, get the return kill on the Ziviz, but not able to do so. And that was a very, very nice pickup for FM. Kind of surprised that Ulfrin fell there. Should have been more aware that with the tower going down, he was at risk.
That's what should have happened the first time that combo was used. Ziviz actually tried to hold on to his ultimate the first time, which actually ultimately led to his demise. He could have quickly ulted himself as Grave went for the combo, but he wasn't quite quick enough on the trigger there. But yeah, that was a perfect example of what really wants to happen against a Victor in that mid lane. You can see he's really suffering too. He's at 0-3-2, and then now Infused have got to deal with a very, very fed Lissandra. Not something that you want to be going toe-to-toe with, especially in a composition that just thrives from having a very fed Lissandra.
Yeah, that is very true. And Infused, what are the tools they have to deal with Ziviz at the moment? Well, they can get out of the ultimate, potentially. You've got the cleanse on Ulfrin. But aside from that, Lissandra can pretty much do what she wants. Tundra teleporting into no man's land here. He is tanky, but is he tanky enough? The damage coming down here. Knock up Tundra. What are you doing, buddy? He was absolutely useless in that instance. Putting some good damage onto Ulfrin before he dies, though. Ziviz jumping forward, gets knocked almost into the gravity field, but not quite. Frozen Tomb, picking up Ulfrin. And to be honest, that's a trade they do not mind taking. Chunky, similarly, teleporting to a location that he does not want to be in, and the chase is on. Dandy jumping onto Ziviz, but Dandy taking so much damage in return. Ziviz getting yet another kill. 5 for 1. He is on fire this game, or rather, on ice.
That was beautiful.
He's as cool as ice.
Tundra, he was looking for his team to maybe follow up a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit of miscommunication, but a lot was actually burnt just to kill Tundra at this point. And actually it meant that a lot of the Infused team mispositioned and allowed a lot of a good retaliation to come from the FM lineup, but they did manage to get a lot of key ultimates off, and a really nice clutch ultimate onto Victor right there at the end, just to pick him off. It was just ever so slightly at the cast before he flashed away, so nice play there, and a good turnaround and drag and pick up by FM, and they're starting to look like they've got a serious grip on this final game of this best of 3.
Yeah, they are in a very good position right now, just given how strong Ziviz is. One thing I just noticed, which isn't too relevant, but Quinsk is running the Frostfire anti-skin, so fitting with the theme of her team. Very nice.
Oh, that's completely relevant actually to the game, because obviously they need the synergy. They need the synergy of the ice, but to be honest, Tundra's running that sort of fiery-looking Scion skin, so it's kind of going against that.
He's ruined everything, to be honest.
He's ruined everything.
I think Quince just wishes, Andy wishes that she was from Freylord.
What they really needed was the toboggan Corki, and then they needed some sort of top lane that went with the whole ice theme, but Surfbot kind of like riding in earth, water, ice. That's kind of running with it. But Tundra, no. What he didn't give two molies about the synergy between skins.
I think, to be honest, FM are going to be having words with him after this.
I think so too. I think that's a serious misplay for the team spirit.
It's certainly more intimidating when there's that theme that you're up against, right? But anyway, let's get back to the game. Toaster, I want to talk about him. He's kind of the saving grace at the moment, I feel. For never mind. Glacial Path coming in. Here comes the damage. He goes down. Quinsk falls to Dandy in the backline, but I'm not entirely sure this is a fight that Dandy wants to pick. Thankfully for him, Wawa is near enough to him that they're not going to go in. Ziviz does put down a lot of damage, has that
Ziviz
CDR.
His ultimate.
Yeah, he's still got the Frozen Tomb, lots of CDR with Morello Nomicon. Look at how quickly he's able to just continuously fire out those ice shards, really putting down some very good damage in the mid lane.
Yeah, and he is 5 for 1 right now. He is a very, very feisty Frost Queen. Can really basically burst anybody that he wants to at this point. Infused are all backing off. Dandy actually scared of recalling anywhere near Ziviz at this point. Going to back away very, very quickly, and Ziviz just doing what he does best, pushing those lanes up, and he manages to stop Toaster at the very end of those ice shards. Really a little bit of a cheeky play there. But Tundra, again, he's having a pretty decent time against Chunky in this top lane.
He's actually doing a lot of damage here. Chunky needs to be careful. Thankfully for him, Meganar is not far off, so he would probably heal quite a bit. But bot lane, the third outer tower going down. Ulfrin in the mid lane, getting hit by the Frozen Tomb. Good gravity field, keeping him alive, however. If that had not stunned him, there would have been one more Frozen Shard coming out. They're probably picking up the kill. Blue buff being stolen away, though. FM are looking like they're in a commanding lead, to be honest, at the moment.
Yeah. And really, you got to think about where is the damage going to come from on the Infused side. If your Victor is this far behind, you're really going to solely be relying on your Graves for the damage. If Graves manages to get picked off, then where is the damage going to be coming from the Infused lineup? You've just got to ask yourself that question. And Nutri does a lot of good base damage. He has got that percentage max health damage. Tundra has high base damages as the Scion. Zivers is massively far ahead. It's going to be Annie. You know, support Annie always does a lot of damage. And then you've got a almost very farmed.
Oh, bot lane. Toaster doing a lot of damage. Without mana, Sir Scott cannot really compete with him, to be honest. I was going to say that, you know, Toaster is kind of the saving grace. That's what I was going for before that last fight happened. However, because he's gone for the Brutalizer, he hasn't picked up a big item yet. Sir Scott's got that Trinity Force. He is going to be doing a lot more so long as he has the mana to really leverage the item that he's gone for.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is that he's a little bit behind Toaster at this point, because Toaster did manage to pick up that double kill early on in the game. So he is really to funnel farm onto himself. He's forgone the boots early on and has now just picked up his Sorcerer's Shoes. So he's just going to be trying to pick up kills left, right, and center in these next coming fights. And I imagine Dragon is going to be a big point for both of these teams in the coming minutes. Infused have got to find a way to take out Zivers before he has the opportunity to do anything useful, because that's the only person that I really think is going to pose a significant threat to the Infused lineup at this point. Nutri, yeah, fine, will do what he can, and obviously Sir Scott is going to be a threat no matter what, but really you've got to work on taking out Zivers, and if you can take out Zivers, then you're really going to have a way better job at controlling, a way better time of controlling the team fight.
The thing that point brings to light, in my opinion, the question that raises is, why is there such a heavy focus on armor on the side of Infused? Looking at the top, we've got Sunfire. Looking at the jungle, we've got the Warden's Mail plus the Tabi. And no one except for Ulfrin has actually itemized against Zivs. Not to mention the fact that Sir Scott with the Sorcerer's Shoes is going to be doing significant magical damage with his cloak, with his phosphorus.
I was also wondering, they really haven't put any emphasis on going for any magic resist at this point in time. They haven't even bothered to look towards an Aegis, which to me it really strikes me as odd, and I completely agree. There isn't much physical damage on the side of FM whatsoever. I mean, even Corki does the majority magic damage in the mid game, and you've got Sejuani, who's basically all magic damage.
Annie too. I mean, Annie does respectable damage pretty much regardless.
Why go for the armor?
Oh, there was a Zonius there by Zivs. That was certainly not intended.
No, it also strikes me as odd. Why go for the armor? Where is the benefit in going for it?
I guess they were afraid of Sir Scott / Tundra. Hang on there's a fight. Great Tibbers onto 2. They instantly get blown up. Zivs having to use the Frozen Tomb on himself, flashing back, now getting away from Ulfrin a little bit. But Ulfrin flashes forward. He doesn't get the kill though, and as a result, Tundra hits the knockup. That's going to be another kill. FM taking a commanding lead in that fight.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is a massive misplay from Infused to go for all this armor, because they're just not negating anything at this point in time. You're negating the auto attacks from Sir Scott. That's all you're doing. It really is all you're doing. Okay, a bit of damage from Scion, but I mean, where does most of Sion's damage come when he goes full tank? It's all from that Roar of the Slayer, which, lo and behold, is magic damage.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm not really following the logic here either, but maybe Infused have some kind of a master plan where they're just going to tank turrets, because those deal physical damage.
Yeah, maybe. I've been assuming that maybe the Jarvan is going for Randuin's just because of the secondary bonus that Randuin's provides, which is that movement speed slow. Looks to be a little bit more control-y. They can do what they want with the team fights, allowing Victor to synergize his ultimate with a Randuin's team. But apart from that, I don't really see any benefit in going for all this armor. I mean, I know people like to go Sunfire Cape on Nah, just because the amount of time you're supposed to be spending in the faces of the enemy team, it really comes in useful, but I almost feel like Aegis should have been the first item.
Well, this is the other thing. Chunky could have gone for a Hex Drinker, and that is a very, very common pickup on Gnar. One of the most common items that he goes for. So, you know, he's made a conscious decision to go for a build path that is not even that typical, you know, rushing straight for that. He has now picked up Merc Treads. That's the first glimmer of hope, I would argue, for Infused from a defensive perspective.
I actually think Sunfire Cape is pretty typical, but I think he should have gone for something different in his time. I think a lot of Gnars do go for that Sunfire Cape, but
Sorry, what I was meaning was not that it's not typical, but it's not typical when you're against this kind of a competition.
Oh yeah, no,
Hex Drinker provides a lot more.
I think you are completely right in that sense. I just think that it's almost like they've gone for what they default to every time they play these champions, and they haven't really thought about what they needed to build for the team. That's just the impression that I get. I'm sure there'll be an explanation for it, but I just can't see one right now.
Well, it might be something I strive to discover later on by chatting to any of the Infused members that are on my friends list. But for now, look at the push in the mid lane. There was such a long time spent on the blue buff that they haven't been able to deal with it properly. Tundra does get engaged on, but he just takes no damage. Wawa hit by the Glacial Prison. Sir Scott is actually taken out. Ulfrin doing a good job of picking that up. Quinsk as well. And actually, Infused doing a great job in this fight. What just happened? FM falling apart.
I think they just overcommitted way too far to that fight right there. They didn't need to go so aggressive under turret. Tundra had used a big part of his teamfight presence in the form of that ultimate. And then obviously it was just, all they needed to do was peel away from Ziviz. Sir Scott went down there. Once Sir Scott was down, there wasn't anything else apart from Ziviz to provide the damage. And Ziviz died very, very easily, only picking up Wawa with his ultimate, which meant that no one could follow him up as he went so far into the team. And that was a nice return for Infused, and maybe we were completely wrong. Maybe they don't even need the magic resist, because right now they're proving that they can still win the fights.
Well, they can still win the fights, but I would definitely argue that was more of a misplay coming out of FM.
Yeah, I would agree. I was just merely saying they've won the fight, so maybe the magic resist isn't so important.
Well, we'll have to see what happens in the next few fights, because one fight does not a win make, and FM certainly know that well. There were moments in the last game where they were losing quite heavily, so maybe Infused looking to pull an FM in a certain sense and come back into this.
Yeah, definitely. Formal on your jungler who's building full tank, though, not the most ideal target for your gold funnel. But Graves doing a good job himself, and he has the potential to carry here at 2-0-3. If no one can get onto him, you and I know how much Graves can absolutely destroy a team.
I love that champion. It's all I play.
He's so good, yeah.
I've actually got some wall art, like a canvas that someone made for me with Graves on it. It's great.
He is a fantastic champion in every respect, and looks like Blade the Ruined King is the next target for Sir Scott. Dragon is going to be up in 1 minute 30. I imagine that's going to be a pivotal team fight for both of these teams. It's still a 5k gold lead for FM here. They need to play these team fights a little better than they did the last time round in order to secure their lead and secure the victory in this game. They definitely are so far ahead at this point in time. And actually, they're going to go...
Oh, Ziviz, he's going in, but he gets locked up by the gravity field, has to use his Zonies very early, flashes out of there. Good job by him avoiding that committed damage. Danny, though, is taking a lot. Sir Scott has to Valkyrie out of there. Doesn't have much mana. Ziviz, he gets the Frozen Tomb onto Toaster, and that is all of the damage except for Ulfrin from Infused. He has no mana. He goes down. No, the Monsoon keeps him alive just for a little bit longer. Good gravity field as well, stopping the chase onto his teammates. But given the timing, this could very easily result in a tower, or maybe, just setting up the vision around the dragon, giving them the edge in the upcoming fight.
Yeah, I almost thought that was going down the drain for FM, but a little bit of misposition from Toaster meant that he was easily locked up by Ziviz and his ultimate. It looks like Infused are immediately heading down to claim their own dragon control, but it's not going to be up for another 30 seconds. They don't have to be too worried. Chunky and Wawa haven't backed because they're trying to catch out Tundra here. Tundra needs to be very careful. I think he's going to go down. This could spell disaster for the next dragon fight.
He is surrounded here, but he's also very tanky. The max percentage health damage on him is doing a good job. Dandy knocking him up, canceling that teleport, and he does fall. That could be very bad this upcoming dragon fight, but similarly, the fact that Chunky has not backed, Wawa has not backed, could also be a negative thing for Infused. Sir Scott taking a lot of poke damage in the mid lane, not entirely sure why he ate that. Dragon is now live. You see Chunky has just gone back. He does have teleport up in a second though. Wawa is being forced to cancel his recall. Stick around. They do not want to give a third dragon over to FM.
Yeah, got to also hand it over. Tundra burnt his teleport there. He really shouldn't have done, because it means he's not going to be able to get to this dragon fight when he gets live again. Unfortunately, it does mean that Infused are going to get complete control of this Dragon Pit, and without Tundra here, it's going to be very difficult for FM to stall this out. But Infused are scared. They are scared. This is happening right now. They are just playing it safe. Wawa has to back. He needs the mana. If when there is ward coverage of him backing as well. Once he does back, this will be an immediate, probably immediate dragon for the FM side.
Yeah, and ultimately it didn't end up being that bad for FM. You know, purely because of the fact that that kill was off the tail end of a fight where a lot of resources were burnt. All FM really needed to do was wait. You know, if they waited long enough, Tundra, hang on, going into middle lane, can't be disabled going through the gravity field, but after the ultimate ends, he does get stunned up, looking like they might want to wander towards this top tower or the Baron, however. They do have a positional advantage here. They've got the vision. They know Infused are all walking through that bush right now. Similarly, Infused know that they are spotted. Good sweeping lens there, catching out that ward.
Yeah, they just managed to gain a lot of vision control over the Baron river side as well. There were two pink wards that had been there a while for Infused, and FM have just managed to clear them up. This is still a very tight game, though, showing how close these teams are in skill level, and they have been playing incredibly well as well. I mean, let's be honest, it's all down to Zivitz for this team fight. He just needs to be in position to do make a pivotal ultimate. He needs to be there to do that, and if he can, he'll be in such a good position to win the team fight for FM. Similarly, no one has decided to build any magic resist against Ulfrin, and he has actually now gotten to a point where he's particularly scary. You leave a Victor for long enough, and this is just what happens to a Victor. He's got the Rabadon's Death Gap. He does a lot of damage. No one.
Oh man, Toaster might get caught out here. Good flag to spot it out. Quinsk taking almost half his health from one laser.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say. He's very scary right now. You've just left him for this long, and people kind of put him down because, again, he got camped quite a lot. But Victor will do this to you. He becomes a scary guy if you leave him for long enough.
That is very, very true. Also, we're starting to see the MR come across from Infused. You know, Chunky has picked up that Spirit's Visage. Obviously a really nice item against the amount of magic damage he's facing. But the Baron, it's going to get started off here by FM. Chunky's not in position. Ulfrin just went back, and Ziviz is going to be able to zone, I think. Infused here, we're going to have to see. Damage isn't really that significant onto it. I think FM are going to have to back out. They just cannot kill the Baron quick enough. They're committing to it. Dandy looking for the steal here. Maybe going on to Zivis. Gets the Cataclysm onto Quinsk, who flashes out of there. Zivis very low, gets exhausted. Wawa was the target. Dandy falls in the back line, but there is a shutdown. Chunky very low as well. Wawa gets by Sir Scott. But what is Sir Scott doing? Horrible positioning. Gets engaged onto Zivis. He falls. Infused absolutely wiping the floor with FM right now due to some horrible, horrible positioning from the carries on FM.
Yeah, I think Sir Scott again had a case of far too aggressive AD carry, and unfortunately Zivis didn't have the opportunity to ult a right target. He used his ultimate onto Wawa, and that just meant that he unfortunately wasn't in position to do anything useful. Wawa is not a target that you want to be wasting your Lysandra ultimate on in the middle of a team fight. He just isn't as useful as the Graves, who was right next to him. He just didn't have that position to get on and use the ultimate onto Graves. He wasn't quite close enough. He was just out of range. Fantastic play by Dandy to initiate on the team that was trying to defend away from the Baron, knowing that the rest of his team following up would have been taking full Baron damage in the meantime. And FM just doing a full Dignitas in classic UK style, UK organisation, throwing a Baron.
Well, they haven't thrown yet. I mean, they're still ahead in gold. They're ahead in towers by 2. They did actually manage to get the inner tower in the bot lane just by minions pushing it down during that whole exchange, and they're ahead in dragons, 2 up. There are on 3 at the moment, so not completely throwing away their lead, but certainly losing fights that, frankly, they should not be. They should not be in positions like that where Infused can find the picks onto the backline members. They have got Tundra, they have got Nutri, they have got all of these tanks at their disposal to be the strong front line, but none of them are being leveraged correctly.
It's difficult right now because Tundra's 0-4. There's a lot of key gold on very key players on the Infused side. They've got a lot of gold onto Chunky. He's going to be a very
Neutri flashes forward during the Arctic Assault. Wawa didn't even have a chance to blink. He gets evaporated. Zizis, though, look at that damage. Has to use Frozen Tomb on himself. I imagine the Zanya's coming just in time to block that collateral damage. But Neutri is not able to do enough. There's backup from the rest of the Infused team, and Tundra teleporting in at not a very good moment. So Scott does take a massive poke there from Ofrin's laser, and overall a 1-for-1, but definitely in favor of Infused, only losing Wawa compared to the 9-kill Lissandra that went down on the side of FM.
Yeah, I mean,
here goes Tundra. They're going on to Ofrin. They're gonna get it. Sir Scott picks it up. Quinks has his ultimate and stun available. Goes on to the wrong target, the Toaster. He's staying alive for now. Can he get a kill? Sir Scott is very low. Needs to get out of here. Not able to. Wawa is back. Tundra is now the next focus. Danny gets the flag and drag. He is going to be going down. And what looked like a great turnaround there for FM backfires yet again. This keeps happening to them, Scoundrel.
I know, and it's just because they've just left this game far too long. They could have pushed their advantages in some other ways, but it's difficult versus a Victor. He's just going to have the potential to wave clear over and over again. He's got so much farm under his belt, and to be honest, he's equally as scary, if not more scary, than the Lissandra now, just because of the damage he can put out across the team. Lissandra just doesn't have the potential to do that damage across the team. She's got the potential to pick, she's got the potential to do damage to a singular target, but just not the same kind of impetus that he'll be going up against in the form of this Victor, who's going to be doing that damage across the entire team. Sion just will not be doing the same level of threats that Chunky can put out on this Nah. Nah has got that percentage health-based damage. He's got the ability to lock people down in that scary Mega Nah form. Tundra just isn't going to have that same kind of impact. Neutri, again, not going to be doing the sort of levels of damage you would want and would hope for from a jungler. Unfortunately, he's just gone that full tank role. You're really relying on just your Corki and your Lissandra here, whereas the complete damage threat is spread out across the Infused lineup. Victor got shut down so hard early on, but they've just left him far too long. They've left this game far too long. Right now, Graves, Victor, Jarvan and Nah all are big damage threats. You can't ignore any one of them at this point in time. And FM, they're going to be searching for answers because they seriously need them at this point. They're going to have to either win this via dragon fights, catching people out, getting a Baron maybe, but they're not going to win it in straight 5v5s at this point unless they get good catches.
They really need excellent vision control as well. You saw earlier Ziv is getting caught out by the damage of Ulfrin and nearly taken down instantly. Had to burn Frozen Tomb, and Zanya's still died to the collateral damage. Afterwards, the burst potential on the side of Infused is insane with the Chaos Storm in addition to that collateral damage. So if you do not have good vision, you might find yourself dead before you can even react.
Yeah, and also if you misposition near the walls, even slightly, Chunky is going to be on your back lane, and he is going to be throwing you against the wall and essentially almost losing you the team fight. Right now, I would say Infused are feeling quite comfortable. They are ahead on kills, ever so slightly behind on gold. They just have to be there for these next dragon fights. Neutri does get that little Rift Scuttler there that will give them the potential for the increased movement speed and, most importantly, the vision around this dragon fight. Wawa coming in. He may get caught out here. No, doesn't even ward down. Finally gets the ward at the last moment. No wards there for the FM lineup. They have got that Rift Scuttler for the vision. It's just trying to bait it out to make them think that the rest of their team is there, because Tundra is just slowly making his way down towards this fight. Finally picked up his first bit of magic.
Oh, Glacial Prison lands a big slow, and Quinks with a huge flank gets a Tibbers on two. Wawa goes down. Frozen Tomb keeping Zivas alive. He gets a Frozen shot out before he's on. His great use there. Ofrin very low in the back line, has to kite away here. Sir Scott is still alive, but he's very low. Nar comes down with the ultimate. There goes Sir Scott, and FM lose yet another critical fight here. Infused are gonna come back into this in a big way if something doesn't go right for FM very soon.
Again, Wawa was the target for Ziviz. It's just not the target that you need to be doing. There is so many other key targets. Even Chunky would be a better target than Wawa at this point. And unfortunately, Ulfrin, like we said, had just had free reign in that fight. And actually, Tundra are going to get so
What are Tundra and Nutri doing? They're trying to go for the steal. They don't get it. Nutri, he is going to go down. And this honestly could spell a Baron if Infused wanted to do it. There's no jungler available for quite some time. They can just back, get some health, and go start putting some pressure, some vision down in important places on the map.
Why did they want to contest that dragon? Why were they scared of a second dragon buff there? I'm really not sure. Maybe they thought that their only way back into this game after losing so many fights is to get that 4th dragon buff and then potentially get the 5th. But I don't understand why trying to contest for that second dragon buff was such an important thing to them. They just lost a lot more of their momentum, and unfortunately it's now almost completely level playing fields. They need to have a talk to Zivix. They need to say, you need to pick these ultimates better, because right now, Wawa, we don't care if he dies. We literally do not care if you lock down Wawa, because he's just a pointless target.
Oh, Ziv is trying to clear some wards here, maybe being a little bit too ballsy there. One thing I just want to touch on real quick, only now, 34 minutes into the game, is Hexcore Mark II being picked up on Ulfrin. He just hit a power spike with the additional effects on his abilities this late in the game, and he's already been so effective up till this point. He has got to be hit by the Frozen Tomb. He's got to be hit by the Glacier Prison. If those things do not land, I don't see a way FM win these fights.
They locked down Ulfrin so hard at the start of the game too. You just imagined that he was never going to get back into it. But that's the problem with Victor. We've talked about this before. You just leave him long enough and he just becomes an absolute monster. He's just one of those. He's one of those carries that's the equivalent to the AP Vayne. You leave him for long enough in the hands of the right player, he will just completely wreck your team fights. They're actually sending Sir Scott up the mid lane, and got to be careful here because it's very.
Here comes the engage. I think Chunky trying to get onto the back line, but actually too quick is the retreat from FM. They're not gonna be able to do it, and they're going for a trade here. It looks like maybe swapping the Baron for an inhibitor.
Yeah, they are going to go straight for this Baron. Inhibitor may go down here. We have seen this happen before, and it hasn't worked out for the team that chose the Baron. I don't know what Tundra is trying to do. He's probably just going to die here.
He's trying to stop the backs. They're going for a base race.
Oh, they're actually going for a back. He's trying to stop the backs here. He can't get over the wall. They've delayed the increased backs. They're actually going to go
run. Oh, Ulfrin flashes in. That is the entire team evaporated. Ziv is not going to be able to do much here. Toaster is not going to go down. That play very nearly won the game for FM, but unfortunately, I think they just gave up way more than they gained with that inhibitor.
Yeah, I mean, that was a massive burst of damage coming in from Ulfrin. I think they should have taken the inhibitor and said, that's fine. I mean, we got a trade for Baron here, but now they're probably going to give it their own inhibitor, if not a lot more. They've got a couple of seconds leeway, but the Baroned up minions are going to be doing their jobs. Tundra is going to try and sit in the front line. He's got another 20 seconds to try and stall out. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Here is Nutri. It's 2 tanks versus the rest of the world at this point in time. Very difficult for them to delay this out, but they've got 4 seconds until Sir Scott is back up and Zivix is up in 9. They may get the inhibitor turret. I don't know whether they'll get the inhibitor. They're going for it very hard.
It's looking like it. Yeah, with Chunky just hitting Mega Nards, pretty hard to fight right now, but they're going to go for it anyway off the back of the inhibitor dying. Dandy taking a lot of damage. Nutri dashing in with that Arctic Assault, but look at Ulfrin in the back line doing so much on the quest. Here comes Zivix. He gets exhausted. He doesn't want to ult himself whilst he is, but he has to. He falls very low, has to flash in the back line. Dandy going in onto everyone. Quinky, he dies, and now Ulfrin is just tearing through FM. This could very easily be game. Oh, Zivix, he picks up Ulfrin, but it's not going to be enough. Toaster gets the collateral damage onto Sir Scott. This could be the push for the end of the game. Infused trying to take this series to 3 games.
This is going to be taken to 3 games for sure. I don't think Tundra can defend this himself. He's going to go down very quickly here, and he gets taken down. And again, the Graves doing serious work this game. They just let this game far too long. FM went so solidly in the driving seat and threw it away pretty convincingly by letting Victor have far too much time by himself. And this is going to be Infused, stretching this out to a 3-game series. I mean, well played to Infused. They played that brilliantly.
I want to highlight Chunky right now. He started the game 40 CS down, and he ended 9 for 1 for 7. Where did that come from? What?
Yeah, I know. It's again, they've got champions on the Infused side that if you leave them too long, they're just going to absolutely wreck you in the late game. Na being one of them, Victor being one of them, Graves even scaling moderately well into the late game just because of, the way people tend to play him these days. Unfortunately, FM just a couple of key decisions gone wrong in these team fights. Lissandra ulting Wawa twice in two consecutive team fights that was very decisive. Probably didn't have the opportunity to ult anybody else, and unfortunately, I just spelt the demise for FM. But GG to Infuse. They're taking this to 3 games. This was going to be a close series every time, and by George, it's a very close series. We're going to be back with you in the final game of the first open qualifier for the ESL UK Premiership series. Please stick around because it's going to be a fantastic